Welcome to the Breakthrough and Bloom podcast. My name is Kelsey Marks, and I am your host and your Breakthrough BFF. My mission in the world is to help women who are interested in spirituality really, truly understand who they are at the core of their being, guiding them through the process of healing themselves and really honing into what it means to be human. I intend to be an open channel to allow insights to flow in that help you break through to the next level of who you were always meant to be. With these conversations, we're going to shift some perspectives, okay? And we're going to give you a new way to live the life that you live, allowing the opportunity to truly manifest what it is that you desire. So if you're looking to break through to the next level of who you are, to live the life of your dreams, and to gain a deeper understanding of spiritual topics, well, you have come to the right place. And I know we're going to have so much fun together, and I am beyond excited to have these conversations with you. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, and welcome back. Take a seat, get comfortable. How is it going? How are you doing? What's going on within? And I'm not just saying it, I'm actually genuinely interested. So feel free to send me a message on Instagram and let me know what is going on in your world. I'll give you a little update about me and my world. If you've been listening to all of the podcasts so far, you're probably familiar with the fact that the summer has been a little bit tumultuous for me between coming off of birth control and now trying to balance the hormones, having massive changes at work, and starting a new business all at the same time. Like, what was I thinking? It has been a bit of a whirlwind in a good way, tough way, but in a good way. And I've taken like the past week off of posting on Instagram and really going on Instagram at all, to be honest, because I just needed a break. I noticed that when I would like open it, I would get like a little ping of anxiety and mostly like frustration because of the pressures I was putting on myself to create things and then comparing myself to others. So I have been taking a little bit of a break, but I do check my messages. So if you do send something to me, I will see it, but I just don't like scroll on it right now. And I can't focus on like the content creation and marketing right now because it doesn't feel like the right step for me at the moment. And the other day, my sister had pointed out to me that it seemed like I was kind of making content for others and not so much for myself. And that's what kind of sparked this like pause for me to just like take a break and to reset. So I'm kind of doing like a big reset right now. And I've actually been working on some foundational things instead for the business, like actually building out a website and closing down my old website, Cosmic Crow Healing, getting the domain name, building out things that I want to offer, figuring out what is it I want to offer and what do I want to say and how do I want to say it. And I know I have this podcast, so it's kind of like, wait, what do you mean you need to figure out what to say? Let me tell you, social media and marketing is its very own little insane world, okay? So it's totally different. It's a different way of like speaking. It's a different way of presenting information. It's totally different than just doing a podcast and having conversations with you guys. It's a lot different. And honestly, it's just requiring me to take a beat. And that's totally fine. I've been enjoying it. And I've actually met with a naturopath to help balance my hormones and figure out, you know, the fatigue that I was feeling. And I'm probably dealing with adrenal fatigue. That was one of the things that she said based on like all of my symptoms. But I'm waiting on tests to go do tests, get tests done to figure out what's really going on. But it's so interesting to me, like what's going on within, you know, like especially with naturopaths, they care more about like what is the body doing, how is the body functioning, and what can we do to change like diet and exercise and supplements, as opposed to just like here's medication. And I don't know, I just like it a lot. And honestly, asking for help has been huge for me. once I finally admitted, like, okay, there's something going on, things have just been like falling into place really easily. I've been getting like recommendations to go to certain things, listen to certain things, try certain things out. It's just really been falling into place. And I'm also doing like a gluten-free, dairy-free diet right now to do a liver cleanse. So that has been interesting because I didn't realize how much cheese and gluten that I ate. And I also found out too that the liver stores a lot of anger, which was interesting for me because I noticed that anger was coming up since coming off of birth control. And I, being the spiritual person I am, was like, oh, this is related to the anger of when I went on to it, which was back in high school. So it's all just very interesting. And I can definitely share more on this experience, right, of like balancing my body after coming off of hormonal birth control and what that's been looking like if you're interested. But that's not the point of this episode. Just an update, not the point. But I wanted to just give you a little glimpse into what's going on anyways, since I've kind of been off of social media at the moment. So what is the point of the episode today? Well, I wanted to touch on a topic that I've been thinking about, and it is something that I have mentioned briefly before in a past episode, but I just want to dive into it a bit more today. And it's about not rushing to transcend the human experience. Because honestly, I feel like it helps us answer that age-old question. What am I here for? What is my purpose? What is the point of life? And listen, I don't have all the answers for that. I don't, especially because your perspective, your life is different than mine. But I do have a perspective in which I ponder these questions, and maybe my perspective will help shift yours. And who knows, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're having these chats, just to see and have conversations and share our perspectives and insights. So I was thinking about how in spirituality, in spiritual awakenings, it's always focusing on like transcending the human experience, right? About overcoming and rising above. And while, yes, this is part of it and is important, I think that if that's all you're focusing on, like rising above the human experience, rising above the emotions, it gives it like this sense of leaving it behind, right? Like no longer experiencing it, kind of being above it all. I think, honestly, you're kind of missing the whole point. And I'm sure maybe you've heard of this before, or you've heard me talk about it before. There's maybe like some yogis out there that are like trying to transcend out of the body, meditating for days on end without eating, and like astral traveling, and like kind of like leaving the body a little bit, right? And they're projecting and teaching just to like learn the lessons of being human and to bounce, basically, right? Like rise above the emotions, rise above the trauma, rise above, rise above, rise above. And maybe you haven't seen it, but maybe you have, like I have. And I used to think enlightenment, spiritual awakenings were about that, about like leaving yourself behind and becoming something different, like leaving the body, going back to spirit, going back to energy, to source. That, you know, the goal was to remember what you are and to get back to it, kind of like a little scavenger hunt. Like you're using this body to teach you how to get back. And then once you remember, you kind of like ditch it and leave it. And I mean, the basis of it is partially accurate. I just think the depiction or the like imagery that's given with it, it's almost like a type of escapism. To escape the human experience, to go back to source. And I don't think personally that's the vibe. I don't think that's the reason. I don't think that's right. And I think it's defeating the purpose of incarnating in the first place. So I want to go back to basics just for a hot second about like the nature of reality. And when I say basics, this might not be basic to you and might be kind of hard to grasp, but that's okay. I'm just going to share it. And I say that this is the basics because it's more foundational, right? Like things start to make more sense when this kind of becomes a foundation that you're building off of. And that is that everything that exists because of consciousness. Everything you perceive is real because you, as a conscious being, as consciousness, perceive it. So the way in which you perceive things is reality. It's your reality because you are consciousness. You are the creator. And consciousness never ceases to expand on itself. It's infinite, it's all-encompassing, it's light, it's unconditional love, it's unwavering compassion, it's intelligent, it's all-knowing, it is literally everything, right? Okay? It's rocks, it's winds, it's stars, it's you, it's me, it's everything. If something didn't have consciousness, it wouldn't exist, plain and simple. It just would not exist. So consciousness and source, for this episode, we can use it interchangeably, okay? That like consciousness and source are the same thing. It's that energy that we all come from. Maybe you call it God, but not in the like Jesus looking God, like Jesus's dad type thing. Not a human God. God in the sense of like source, energy, purity, love, more of like energy as opposed to a being. So how I like to think of this too is just imagine consciousness as this like gigantic sun, and it's just chilling there, right? And everything that exists within this sun. This gigantic sun is like all encompassing. It's all you see. There's no like darkness or anything. It's literally just like this bright light. So I don't know if we should call it a sun, but I'm calling it a sun. And it's just fucking massive, okay? And this sun decides, hey, I want to experience all possibilities of existence. I am existence, but how can I exist? And I want to experience that. And I want to do it in various ways. I want to do it in various bodies. I want to do it in various forms. Like, I just want to go all out and just see, like, what am I capable of doing? What am I capable of experiencing? And what happens is now that the sun has decided like, hey, I'm going to go try out some wacky, crazy shit, whatever. I'm just going to try it out. The sun like splits off these little comets. So you can like imagine these little comets just kind of like shooting off these little chunks of itself. And these comets, even though they're smaller, it has all of the same capabilities because it's the same thing. It's the same exact matter. It's the same exact thing coming off of this ginormous sun, but it's just little chunks of the sun basically coming out. And it's the same thing. And I also like to think of it this way too, that if you take ocean water out of the ocean and put it into a cup, it's still ocean water. It doesn't become something less than or different simply because it's in a smaller container. It's still ocean water. It's just not in the ocean. It's just in a different container. And to me, that is what incarnating is. It's taking a smaller portion of source and like shoving it into a smaller form. And in our cases, it's the human form. And there's literally infinite ways to incarnate. You can incarnate as a rock. You can incarnate as the wind, as a star, like as just energy floating in space. Like you can incarnate as anything. If you've read any of Dolores Cannon's work, you know what I'm talking about. There has been like a lot of past life readings of things that aren't human. It's so interesting. If you haven't read her work, read her work, especially the Convoluted series. It's so good. But there's just infinite ways to incarnate. And the whole point of like taking a little bit of the ocean water and putting it into a jar, or shooting out the little bit of the comets from that big sun, is just so that it can experience what it's like to be something other than the entire ocean or the entire sun. It's just about experiencing restrictions, limitations, rules, regulations, going from limitless to limited, right? And what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that teach me? What can I learn from this? And, all of these different forms, we all have different particular forms of like guidelines and experiences for different forms. The human has, I think, one of the toughest, the hardest limitations, the hardest rules. And honestly, part of it is because Earth has been like ran and manipulated by dark forces for a hella long time. But it's also because of like the rules and limitations that are here just specifically to incarnate here in general. So when we incarnate onto earth, we go through a veil, like a veil of forgetfulness, which causes us to forget who and what we are at our core as a spark of consciousness, as, source. And the point of coming here, it's not necessarily to learn. I mean, it is, but more so rather to remember your divine nature as the consciousness having an experience, in this case, in this carbon form. It's really to encompass and embrace the unconditional love that you are, the compassionate being that you are, the whole and complete energy that you are, right? Yes, you are a fragmented portion of the energy, but you are still that energy. You still have all of the same intrinsic values. You are still whole and worthy, and you have all of those skills and capabilities. This human form just has a lot of limitations on it. And then we put even more on with our mindsets and our beliefs and the way that we perceive the world. And I think the point is to bring it into the human body, right? Is to encompass all of this, of what we are, that unconditional love, that whole and complete energy, and to bring it into the human body. It's not about leaving the body behind, right? It's not about remembering who and what you are and then being like, oh, I'm more than this body, I'm going to leave it behind. No, we are more than the body, but it's about bringing that energy of the fullness of who we are, of understanding, yes, we are more than this, but we can bring more into the body, right? And elevating the body that way. That's what it means to me to transcend. It means to take the weight of all of the gunk and the junk and the limitations and the stories and the beliefs and the programmings of the matrix that we reside in, and just bringing in more of the light, more of your divine and true nature, and transcending yourself as well as the body, right? Not leaving it behind, but really taking it with you, because you're on this road trip. Bring your car with you, right? Even if you don't think you need it, just still bring it with you. And when we incarnate and we do this, the bringing in of more light into these carbon forms, into these human bodies, what we do is we also raise the conscious collective as well, because we are all one, okay? We are all aspects of the same sun. We're different comets, but we're the same sun. Kind of like how I said before, everything is consciousness. Nothing can exist without it. I didn't say it's all different forms of consciousness. No, it's all consciousness. It's all the same thing. We're all coming from the same sun. Everything is coming from the same energy. And think of it this way too. You could pull out 10 cups of ocean water and place them all next to each other, and you would say, okay, these are 10 cups of ocean water, right? It's all ocean water. You wouldn't say, well, this cup is white and this cup is black. No, we're not talking about the cups. We're not talking about the containers. We're talking about the contents here, okay? Ocean water is ocean water, regardless of what color or even what type of cup that you put it in. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here, is that we are consciousness in the human body. So the human body is the cup for the ocean water in this aspect. And we have a bunch of different beautiful types of cups, but at the end of the day, we're still all source within that cup. And the cool thing about consciousness too, is that when you work on yourself, when you start inhabiting more space, when you start creating more love, when you start feeling more compassion, when you experience more patience for yourself, you start to raise it in others as well. And you can really notice it in the ones that you spend a lot of time with, because we're all the same, right? We're all the ocean water, we're all the sun, and we're all interconnected as well. So I'm sure when I first said you're putting 10 cups, you're seeing them as 10 separate cups. But imagine that these cups of ocean water, there's a connection between them. There's a pump that's circulating through all of them. So all of the ocean water is just flowing through all of the cups. And if one becomes more saline, more salty, the rest are going to become more saline, more salty. Or if one becomes more pure, less salt, more cleansed water, right? The rest are eventually going to start getting more pure as well, because it's just all pumping through it. And it's the same thing with consciousness. And that's why so many people say, when you work on yourself, you raise the consciousness, of the collective as well. And the other cool thing too is that our human forms, we actually connect back to as well. So not only are we like connecting to all of the other cups as well, but we're also still connected back to the ocean. So now imagine you have these 10 cups. They're all interconnected by a tube, but they're still all connected to the ocean as well. So the things that you're doing in your individual cup not only affect the other cups around you as well, but they also affect the ocean, the entire ocean as well. And you might be like, oh, well, my cup is so small, the ocean is huge. What's the point of me like trying to purify my water? Like, what's the point? The point is, even a drop of more purified water creates a massive change, right? It does. It really does create a massive change in the entire ocean. And like it connects all back. And in these metaphors, I just want to make sure that you're not seeing like cut off containers, okay? Like the connection remains between all of the ocean water between these cups. The information is shared between all of them. Like everyone is learning, everyone is gathering the same information. And you can view it with the sun as well. Like there's no blocked off containers. You're connected to everything. There's no way to completely block it off in the cup. That's not possible, because if you did, the cup wouldn't exist. You wouldn't exist in the cup. Like you're connected to everything. And the point isn't to get to this point in life and think, hey, I did it. I'm better than you. I'm out of here. Like, no, the point is to help your brothers and sisters, to help others, and not like just your family, like your brothers and sisters as in like other people. Because other people are other aspects of yourself. They're other cups of the same ocean. It's just a different cup. It's the same thing inside. Because everyone is you. If you are the ocean, just putting a little bit of yourself into a cup, the other cup next to you that is ocean water as well, it's the same thing. It's still you. We're all consciousness separated in fragmented forms. But we're not separate from ourselves. We are connected. Our containers allow the ocean water to flow through constantly. And it might appear that we're like separate cups, but that's just an illusion. It's just part of the incarnation on Earth in these bodies. It's part of the rules that I had mentioned before. It's part of the limitations that we think exist. But it's just part of the game, right? And I think the goal is, once you like realize that you are this infinite power, you are love, you are consciousness, I think the goal is to honestly help others realize that they are it as well. And this is in whatever way, shape, or form that resonates with you. So I'm not saying you have to be like a coach or a healer or start a podcast or do what I'm doing, right? It could mean that you're an inventor. It could mean that you're a mother. It could mean that you're a scholar. It could mean you're a mathematician. It could mean you're an artist, a singer, a novelist, someone who just like loves to travel, right? Like anything that is your calling, anything that you love is your gift to the world. It's the way in which you can help others realize their consciousness within themselves as well. The reason why you love what you love is because it's your gift, okay? And through expressing your gift, you help others realize that they also have abilities and gifts, and that it is safe to express abilities and gifts and to be just as they are, and to bring in more of the light, more of love. Because when you're doing the things that you love, you're expanding your container, right? You're expanding this human body to encompass more of what it is you are as your aspect. Right? So like when we're shooting off, like we're deciding what aspects do we want to be prevalent. We're not saying that we're only taking certain aspects. No, like you can do, have, and be anything and everything you want, because that is inherently your nature. But when we're like shooting off like that, we're deciding what aspects do we want to put at the forefront to give us a particular experience, right? Because we want to experience things in a certain way, to learn certain things, to fully encompass certain things. So it's not saying like just because you have a hard time singing that you should never sing. it's like you can take the time to learn how to sing if you want to. I'm kind of losing my train of thought on this, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. That your gifts are what you are meant to express in this life, because that is what you have chosen when you had incarnated, because you had infinite gifts that you could have chosen, and you chose the ones that you chose for the particular experience and for what you can bring to earth at this time by embracing them. Because at the core of our beings, we are worthy, we are abundance, we are infinite, we are pure, and we are compassion. And one last comparison, because I know I just did like 2 different ones with the sun and the ocean, but I want to do one last one that I want to share that I actually used in a Reiki session recently, and I thought it was great. And maybe this will help solidify this idea for you. But just imagine that you are a chef and you decide that you want to expand your talents as a chef. And there's 3 ways in which you can go about doing this. So the first way, let's say you decide that you want to learn about different types of cuisine and learn about different cultures. So you decide to go on a world tour and to learn all of the different foods. You're backpacking through all of these different countries and you're experiencing different cultures and you're really immersing yourself in it, right? You're staying at local hotels. You're staying in small towns. You're meeting the people who truly are like in the country, not just in the tourist areas, but like living in those cultures, living in those countries. And you meet with the locals and you have them teach you the ways in which they cook. You have them share their stories and share their heritage with you. And this is like really getting deep into it, right? You're experiencing all of it. You're not just learning it, you're experiencing it. And this is the incarnation that I'm speaking of, that I'm saying is like the whole point of coming to Earth. It's coming to Earth for that journey, for that world tour and healing ourselves, and which is like learning the new recipes and being connected and compassionate to others, like meeting with the locals and having conversations with them, like really diving into the food world tour and connecting and getting hands-on experience and cooking the authentic and cultural way. Like that's the incarnation I'm speaking of like truly embodying and experiencing, right? And like bringing all of what you are and capable of doing into the experience. Like you went all in on it. And let's say the other way. So you go on the world tour, but instead you decide to stay in only the tourist areas. You don't want to go off the beaten path. You decide to only eat at restaurants and you don't talk to anyone about their food, their culture, or their heritage. You're going simply to go eat and to learn from eating by tasting and experiencing that way. And I view this type of like food world tour as the transcendence that sometimes gets taught, right? The leaving the body behind, like just learn and get out. Like you're missing the beauty in the experience, the depth, the connection to others, the connection to yourself, right? Like it still is good. You're still learning a lot. You're still learning new cuisines and you're having a great time, but like it's missing that like that extra oomph, right? That extra of like, I'm really going to remember this. Like I have not only just a memory at like a restaurant, but like a memory with a person, a memory with a conversation, a memory with emotions. And it's going to like stick with you so much more, right? So like just going and just eating and not really going off the beaten path and not learning the culture or the reason why they're making the food the way they're making it. It's like just not as in depth, right? It's just not. And the point isn't to like get in and get out, learn the lesson and bounce. The point is to really like dive in, to experience all that this human form has to offer and to learn and to share and to teach others along the way as well. And then let's say like the last way that you could learn new cuisines is just buying cookbooks and never going and never having the experience. And sorry, I probably should have prefaced this. Money is not a thing here, okay? It's just an option. Which one do you want to take, right? Don't worry about the cost. It's covered. So, go travel off the beaten path. Go travel in just the tourist spots or just buy a ton of cookbooks and watch videos online and not really go and have the experience in the culture. And this last one of just kind of like buying the cookbooks, watching the videos, I see this as like coming into your human form onto earth and like knowing that you want to grow and expand and knowing that like there's more to life than what you're doing by being like a cog in the work life machine. I see it as that, but then like not putting in the time, not putting in the effort, not putting in the work, not putting in the dedication to yourself to truly allow yourself to experience, to grow, to learn, to become confident in yourself. And listen, there's nothing wrong in whichever way you choose to take your world tour as a chef, okay? So don't think that you're doing it wrong. The fact that you're here listening to me shows that you're already on the path to fully experiencing. You have booked a flight, okay? You're traveling. Now you just get to decide, do you want it to be like fully immersive, or are you gonna keep a kind of more higher level, right? And the fact you're here listening, it just shows that you're already on the path to fully experiencing, to fully healing, and incorporating more of that human experience. It's just all a matter of preference. And honestly, it might be what you signed up for before coming into this form that maybe you do have a little bit more difficulties. And I know you're probably like, why would I do that? But like, just like you would choose the countries that you're going to visit on your tour. Like, are you going to do a Euro trip? Are you going to go visit African countries? Are you going to go visit Asian countries? Like, you get to choose that, right? You're choosing where you're going. You're deciding on the experiences. It's the same as when you're incarnating. You decide all of that prior. You decide of all of your troubles, the blocks, the challenges prior to getting here. Right? We're choosing the way in which we're going to perceive the world. We're choosing the way in which we're going to have to overcome certain things. And then we choose the skill sets that are going to help us do that as well. So everything that you are capable of doing is capable of getting you over your challenges, because it's like booking your flights to Japan and booking all of your hotels in Japan, right? Like, you're gonna do that, obviously. It's choosing it methodically. It makes sense when you're picking it. It might not make sense right now when you're in it because of the veil of forgetfulness, but I promise you that your flight to Japan, you have hotels booked there. They're not in like Europe. They're not in Italy, okay? Everything that you are going through is designed for you, by you, prior to incarnating. Again, I'm not talking about your human form. I'm talking about the consciousness form of you. You decided all of this prior to coming in. So take a little grace with yourself when things are getting kind of hard, and just remember like, okay, I chose this journey, and I know that these blocks were things that I picked because I am capable of getting through them based on who I am, the skill sets that I had chosen to express, and my abilities, because it's exactly what happened, okay? And just a reiteration, it's not about getting out. It's not about getting out of the human form and transcending it. It's about bringing more in more of who you are. More of that sun, more of that ocean, more of the traveling. It's bringing in more light, more consciousness, more energy. It's not about getting out to connect back to the more. It's about bringing more in the current circumstance that you were in. That was the whole point. And these human forms are super flexible containers. It's kind of amazing. And they can expand and hold more and more and more light. It's incredible, really. Like, the more that you work on just bringing in more consciousness, your body is going to do it with you. And that's why there's things called like ascension symptoms, where maybe you feel like you've gotten the flu, or you just have like a cough that came up out of nowhere, or your joints are really achy out of nowhere. Like, ascension symptoms are a real thing. And it's because your body is integrating more light. It literally happens without you even realizing it, because there's a lot of upgrades that are happening on Earth right now, but your body is capable of expanding and containing more light. And that's the whole point, is to bring more in. It's not just about realizing that you're the ocean water and then being like, ooh, pour me back into the ocean water, please. It's not about that. It's about expanding the container that you're in to have more come in, and realizing that you have been connected the entire time, not only to others, but to the source as well. You've never been separated. You've never been by yourself in that way. You've been alone maybe in the human body, but like energetically, you've never been alone. You've never been ditched. You have your guides. You have your higher self. You have an entire team that is supporting and rooting for you at all times. And the point, again, is to bring in more of the experience so you can have a richer, fuller, more fulfilling time here, learning greater things about yourself, about your potentiality, about what you can do to grow the soul, right? To experience more, to gather wisdom. And all of this helps others do the same thing. Since we're all the same and we're all connected, what you do affects others. Just add more beauty to the world by bringing more beauty into your own life, into your own inner world. Again, just remember, it's not about getting out. It's about bringing more in. And I hope that this episode was helpful and maybe got a couple of things going on in your noggin, some gears turning, who knows. This is kind of all that I have going on in my brain right now on this topic, so I think we're pretty good. I think there was some good stuff here that maybe is going to help you shift the way that you view being human and allow yourself to just like enjoy it more and realize the whole point is to have a really fulfilling, beautiful life of just experiencing and being. And as always, I would love if you would leave a review or a rating on this podcast. It helps me know what you'd like to hear more of, honestly. And it also helps to get this podcast out to more amazing human beings just like you. And for real, what I had mentioned earlier, message me on Instagram at Breakthrough and Bloom to tell me how you're doing, right? I'd love to know what's going on in your world, in your life, what's going on within. And also, like, feel free to vent to me too. If you feel like you have no one else or nowhere else to go, that no one around you like believes in the stuff, or like you don't have anyone that you can kind of have these types of conversations with, or just like anyone to just let you just spew shit out so it's not on your chest anymore, like, I'm here for you. Feel free to just like word vomit into the DMs. It's fine. Like, everyone needs someone to support them, to just hold space for them. And I would love to be that container for you. And of course, if no one has told you this today, I am so incredibly proud of you. You're doing amazing, sweetie. And I love you. I love you. I love you. And I'll see you in the next one.